In Venezuela's capital, Caracas, police have fired tear gas to disperse crowds protesting the official results of the presidential election. It came after Venezuela's electoral body rejected calls for a recount of Sunday's vote that saw Hugo Chavez's hand-picked successor win by a razor-thin majority. And as artist Celia reports, continuing with the Chavismo course is going to prove a tough task for the new president-elect.
When the results of the presidential election on April 14 was announced, there were huge celebrations in this district, heavily supporting Nicolas Maduro, the so-called successor of Hugo Chavez. Now, his supporters tell me that although the margin between Maduro and his main opposition, Henrique Capriles, was very small, they say that with this victory, the spirit of the El Comandante Hugo Chavez continues to live on. Maduro's in for a very, very big job. There's a lot of problems that he has to solve. Even Maduro's supporters reiterate the fact that there are a lot of problems that have to be addressed, such as food shortages, medicine shortages, as well as the issue of crime. They really want this addressed because they say they just don't feel safe on the streets. Maduro is also inheriting one of the world's largest oil reserves. So the world will be watching on how this is going to be managed moving forward. And also, Maduro will have quite a very short grace period in proving his ability to unite a very divided country. We've seen in the elections, it was almost a 50-50 split between Maduro and Capriles. And one more test would be to see the military support. We know that Hugo Chavez was a former army tank commander. He had the military support, and this is something that Maduro will have to work on. But perhaps the biggest challenge for Nicolas Maduro is filling his predecessor's shoes. As many of his supporters have been saying, a vote for Maduro is in fact a vote for Hugo Chavez.
And independent election observer Dr. Julia Buxton believes the seemingly fair vote could spark major tensions around the oil-rich state.
Slim margin, but the process that I observed yesterday was one that was fair, it was transparent. This is a fully automated voting process. Obviously, this was a very, very narrow victory for Maduro, but really to call into question the capacity and the technical feasibility of the voting system, I think is very, very unfortunate. I think the way that these should be presented is actually to the CNE, which they should then investigate, rather than this being something which is used as a mechanism to generate publicity. So I think we really need to wait for the results of the CNE investigation before we can comment on that. My immediate concern now is that if the United States does not recognise the election process here and the victory of Maduro, this is going to once again put Venezuela and the United States on a very, very strong bilateral clash. There's going to be even more problems going forward in that relationship. Spain, I believe, has come out and said that it's not prepared to recognise the victory at the moment. Again, I think it's very unfortunate and somewhat irresponsible for these countries to be pronouncing so soon, and we really need to have seen the audit of this voting process before we should be making such diplomatic declarations.